Houston Cougar fans, and welcome to 90s night at Cougar Softball Stadium. Today's game features the UCF Knights and your Houston Cougars. All right, fans, let's meet today's teams. First, for the UCF Knights. First, the non-starters. Number 1, Tamisha Glover. Number 3, Aaron Emanuel. Number 8, Kendall Lange. Number 9, Sierra Ward. Number 11, Allie Little. Number 12, Cameron Toney. Number 17, Brooke Barlow. Number 19, Tamara Bajan. Number 20, Kaylee Masidi. And number 24, Alyssa Oaks. And now ladies and gentlemen, the starters for the UCF Knights, leading off in left field, number 5, Denali Schabacher. Batting second, playing second base, number 18, Aubrey Johnson. Batting third, playing third base, number 44, Aubrey Roten. Batting fourth, catching, number 21, Cassidy Brewer. Batting third, playing shortstop, number 33, Caitlin Jensen. Batting sixth, playing designated player number 2, Haley Bejarano. Batting seventh, playing first base, number 7, Jasmine Esparza. Batting eighth, playing center field, number 22, Kira Clarkowski. Batting ninth, playing right field, number 6, Megan Greenwell. And the starting pitcher for the Knights, number 27, Arlena White.
Bring them out, bring them out, bring them out, bring them out.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for your Houston Cougars. First, the non-starters. Number 2, Megan McCarver. Number 3, Sarah Parker. Number 5, Savannah Hebner. Number 6, Tiara Williams.
We welcome you on this Friday afternoon to Houston, Texas, along with the American Digital Network. It's ADN's coverage of Game 2 of the weekend series between the home squad Cougars and the visiting Knights of UCF. We take a look at how things stand here in the American as the Knights took yesterday's matchup in a 3-0 victory. After shutting out Houston, they stay neck and neck with USF in the standings at the top. Houston now at 2-2, right there with Memphis and Wichita State in the middle of the pack. On that note, we welcome you inside the broadcast booth. Lincoln Rose, along with former Cougar standout Sydney Gearbracht. And Sydney, we take a look at this matchup. Houston still has a chance to win their first 2 weekends in conference play, but needs a big win today, followed by another one tomorrow.
They do, and UCF is going to do a great job of holding the Cougars back as much as they can. 2 well-matched teams, seeing a little bit of a dynamic shift. Now Houston has the upper hand as the older team, while UCF is the younger team.
It's a UCF team turning a lot of heads, in part because of what they're doing in the circle. But let's take a look at what the visitors need to get done if they're going to pick up the first 2 games of this series now.
That's true. UCF is going to need to use their speed on the bases, always an athletic, fast team. They're going to need to force mistakes for Houston. They're going to need to force UH to play great defense, and then they themselves are going to need to play clean defense behind their pitchers.
How do the Cougars bounce back from being shut out yesterday at home?
Well, the Cougars need to, first and foremost, get past Aaliyah White. As long as they can get past her, they have a better chance of putting more runs up on the board. Then capitalizing on their own momentum. They've been scoring later in the game. They really need to capitalize early. And then every pitcher on this Cougar pitching staff needs to pitch well. Melanson and Bell specifically need to have great outings the rest of the weekend.
For the Knights, a lot of new talent has really emerged, reinventing this roster over the past couple of years. I know in your mind, Cassidy Brewer really is a standout.
She is. She is a offensive contributor. She's consistent. She's a mainstay behind the plate. She works with all of the pitchers, and she's one of the veterans on this UCF team, having a lot of success and seeing a lot of what great pitchers for this program have done. So she sets a great example.
And for Houston, of course, I know one of the players you'll keep an eye on, of course, Sarah Queen.
Yes, she does. She leads the team in batting average, slugging. She has the most home runs, so she is going to be the offensive powerhouse, creating the power and also creating a lot of momentum for her team offensively, and does just a great job at third base all season long so far.
Knights and Cougars, game 2 of this weekend series for one of the top spots in the American standings when we come back on ADN.
People say we're big. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. Dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it. This is big.
And we welcome you back to Cougar Softball Stadium here on the campus of the University of Houston. Weekend series got started a day early with Easter coming up this Sunday. UCF with a victory yesterday. We take a look at the defense that will surround today's pitcher for the Cougars. It'll be Melanson in the circle. Queen, Garcia, James, Montgomery in the infield. Crumpton, Stewart, Thomas in the outfield. And of course, Brooke Benoit, over 80 straight starts now behind that plate, the constant at backstop. And of course, getting the start in the circle today for the Cougars. You talk about Melanson. When you see that Cougar in the circle, what stands out in your mind?
Well, one of the things that Melanson is going to do really well is she does well when she doesn't throw a lot of pitches, right? So she has a consistent rhythm. She needs to make sure that she throws her screwball and places it well at the knees. Sometimes what makes her effective is that when she throws her screwball, a lot of players are not able to determine whether it's actually a screwball or a rise ball, so they get fooled pretty quickly. And even I've gotten fooled depending on where she throws it, just because it is so effective. So knowing where she places her pitches and being precise all game long is going to be important for Melanson's success.
Denali Shopaker is in the leadoff spot. Yesterday went 1 for 4 with a run and an RBI. And yesterday it was Savannah Hebner, as talented as she was outdueled by Aaliyah White for UCF. Aaliyah White we will see in the circle in the home half. She pitched all 21 innings last week against Tulsa. Could very well look to do the same this weekend. But a nice start for Melanson in the circle. Able to strike out Shopaker for out number 1.
White t-shirts fans, that's a Cougar K.
And there she goes with that screwball. She's able to put it right at the knees. And again, it has a little bit of a tail upward. So any slapper is going to make sure they need to have the right bat angle to put that ball on the ground.
Makes way for Aubrey Johnson in the 2 spot. As Johnson now 1 for 4 yesterday with an RBI, as the top 2 batters drove in a pair of runs. This one will have a chance to get out. It does. Lindsey Stewart will run out of space, and it's the Knights who strike first here on day 2 of this weekend clash.
Just a great piece of hitting there from Aubrey Johnson. Able to capitalize early in her count. Takes a hack at the first pitch. Is able to extend through that curveball that Melanson just leaves a little bit too high.
For Johnson, her 4th home run now on the year. The solo blast means still nobody on for Courtney Roten, but with a 1-run advantage for these Knights.
And talk about a major contrast from the game that we saw yesterday, right? all of the scoring was done at the very end of the game, right, the 7th inning. And that's going to be one of the things that the Cougars are going to need to respond to, especially in these first couple innings. Now that UCF has put themselves on the board first, set some momentum for themselves, and set the tone of this game so far.
Rhoden's one of just 2 seniors in the starting lineup today for Renee Lewis-Gillespie. The other one will be Megan Greenwell in the 9th spot. Rhoden batting .309 this year. He's made every start thus far. Sitting on 9 extra base hits, will not have to offer her bat. After the home run by Johnson, Rhoden is on with a base on balls.
And only 11 pitches thrown here, right? So we've had a home run, a strikeout, and then a walk. So far an incredibly eventful day for Melanson. Again, needs to tighten it up. Her pitch count is low. That's what we want. But unfortunately, it's not going in her favor right now. Needs to make sure that she's using her pitches and settling into her own rhythm right now. Her body language shows, she's a little bit tense, and she's not dictating the pace of the game. She's allowing the UCF offense right now to do it for her.
Brooke Vanoy will come out and talk to her sophomore pitcher, Tristan Melanson. Came into today 5-4 on the year, a 2.40 ERA. And now the second-year head coach for the Cougars, Kristen Vesely. Spent 6 years under Kyla Hollis, just the 2nd head coach in this program's history.
Kyla Hollis was at the helm of this program for a long time, was able to have quite a few accolades. But Kristen Vesely, All-American player at Oklahoma, led the 2017 Cougars led the American in batting average, hits, runs, RBIs. This is a team that is led by a young All-American staff. They are vivacious, they're tenacious, and they really want to win. And you see that not only through the way the girls play, but also through the way that these coaches coach and the energy they bring.
As you noted, not just Coach Vesely, but her entire staff, former All-Americans at A&M, Oklahoma as well.
And all pro.
That's right. Just a great resource to tap into for these players. Right now, UCF looking to post some more on the board here in the top half of the first inning. Cassidy Brewer at the plate, catcher for the Knights. After a strikeout, a shot occur. It was a home run from Johnson and Rhoden with a walk.
And Brewer, one of those veterans for the Knights. She's been on a team and caught multiple pitchers, including Shelby Tournier, and has seen a lot of what great pitching looks like. And she sends one over.
Sends that one for a ride. A 2-run blast for Cassidy Brewer out of the cleanup spot. Her 3rd home run on the year. And as Courtney Rhoden will proceed her home, and the rest of the team waits the arrival of Brewer.
All right, so have to tip your hat to UCF, right? Brewer comes in, knows exactly what she wants. They know exactly what they're looking for. This is what committing to a game plan really looks like. And here's the thing. UCF is making sure that they're choosing the pitches that cater to their own strengths, right? So both Brewer and Johnson were choosing pitches. They capitalized on Melanson's mistakes. That's going to be huge throughout the rest of this game, and you're going to need to see if Houston can do the same thing, seeing Aaliyah White for the 2nd time.
UCF has already matched the total run output from yesterday's 7 innings against the Cougars. That was your final score right there, 3-0. It was a rare shutout of the Cougars on their home field. As the 5 spot belongs to Caitlin Jensen in this lineup, the shortstop for the Knights. She'll be followed by Haley Bajarano, Jasmine Esparza. Then you have Clarkowski and Greenwell in the 8 and 9 spots.
And Jensen is a freshman, but she's one of the best power hitters that this UCF program has seen. And they've had some good ones, McCloskey, Javari from a couple years ago, and she's only a freshman, so she is going to be a mainstay in this lineup, and they're going to really rely on her, especially throughout the rest of her career, to make sure that she is not only on base, but that she's put in a position where there are runners in scoring position for her to hit it.
Still cannot find the second out of the inning. Already another free pass as Jensen is on with the walk. And it gives way to Haley Bejarano. Bejarano, a freshman, one of 2 in this lineup today, batting .211 on the year.
Bejarano fouling that ball back, and that's really indicative to a pitching staff or this battery for Houston that Bejarano is right on time. Anytime a player fouls the ball directly back, you know that you need to do something different, maybe even in location, sometimes in changing speeds.
Haley gives it a big cut. She's out of the Phoenix area from Surprise, Arizona. Right now, the base runner, Caitlin Jensen, on first. 4th straight batter to reach with 1 out. Only batter retired, the leadoff batter, Shopker, on strikes. And this will be fouled back off of Vinoy. Cougars have yet to be able to bring their bats to the plate for the first time on this Friday evening. Again, they'll be greeted by the talented sophomore Aaliyah White, who frequently has been your pitcher of the week in the American this year. And it's all or nothing with the strikeouts. That's how the 2 outs have come here in the first inning, with 4 base runners sandwiched in between.
And just a beautifully placed ball, right? Melanson making sure that she's hitting her spots, becoming more precise with her pitches as this game goes on, as this inning goes on. We've seen her make adjustments, but, you know, it's important to know that this UCF team is going to capitalize on anything the Cougars give them, including free bases, free passes, any sort of walk, any sort of stealing bases. We already said that they really need to be using their speed on the base paths in order to take that extra 60 feet. And this is a team that Houston cannot allow the free passes to happen because they're going to take a mile with every inch that you give them.
Esparza batting .246 this year, but the sophomore has been productive with 14 runs batted in. Just gets a piece of that one. So Aubrey Johnson with a 1-out home run, followed by a walk of Courtney Roten. Cassidy Brewer would be able to bring Roten home on her 2-run blast. Jensen the only base runner at the moment, and that pitch not tempting for Esparza. Again, Jensen, the second night walked this inning.
One of the things we're noticing with Melanson is that she's really effective when she throws inside, right? She's allowing herself to move through her pitch and get the effective movement on the inside corner. Has not had the same precision on her outside pitches unless they're a ball or 2 lengths off the plate. So really needs to be able to bring the ball in to get that called strike just as much as she's getting that swing and miss pitch.
And again, this is already the 7th batter this inning for UCF, with 3 runs having come home. UCF tied with USF 4-0 in conference for the best start this year. They were preseason picked 4th. They just got done sweeping last weekend the preseason favorite Tulsa. We'll have more on that a little bit later on. But there is the final out. 3 strikeouts on the inning for the right arm of Tristan Melanson. But 4 nights would reach, including a couple of home runs. It's a 3-0 start for UCF here in Houston. Cougars finally with a chance to pick up their bats when we return.
"7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Oh, that ball is hit deep. Left field. Way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially striking Stalls over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Welcome back to the campus of the University of Houston. These are two of the largest public universities colliding. U of H, almost 50,000 students. UCF, in excess of 60,000. Aaliyah White has been spotted. A 3-run advantage before she ever steps in the circle. She has an ERA this year of 1.7. Tied for the nation's lead with 17 victories now on the year after last night.
Well, and talk about taking the pressure off, right?
And that will not be in time to retire Ariel James, swinging early in the count.
Okay, so Aaliyah White, a little bit of pressure off. Might not have been as precise with that first pitch, but good to see that Houston's offense knows what they're choosing, coming out strong, making sure that they are being able to turn the tide in their favor with momentum. We said that that was going to be really important for their success this game.
This is Lindsey Stewart at the plate, showed bunt early on. Ariel James otherwise has not been a threat to run this year. No Cougar with more than 2 stolen bases this season. Back-to-back sophomores to lead off in this lineup. And Stewart opts not to offer her bat at that one. Again, Aaliyah White became the first night pitcher to throw all 21 innings of a weekend series, and as a result, they sweep Tulsa, the conference favorite this year. And right now, Jasmine Esparza is pleading that that ball hit her in play, and they say yes. That Stewart was out of the batter's box when that ball came up and bit her.
Left fielder number 25, Kaylin Proctor.
And it did. And that's a great call there. We had a couple calls yesterday, too, where there were foot out of the box. There was a ball that was hit and might have hit another player. And so it's good to see that we're seeing some officiating that's going to be even on both sides, making sure that they're making it so that all of these young athletes can play.
Yeah, as a slapper, always something you have to be mindful of. Gives way to Kaylin Crumpton. Crumpton, the left fielder for the Cougars these days, right now up with 1 on and 1 out.
And there it is, that changeup that Aaliyah White has been using all season long. That's something that as a freshman she was not able to throw nearly as effectively, didn't get as many called strikes, and as a result is getting a lot more swing and misses. An off-speed pitch, just showing it, can be so effective. Imagine what you can do as a pitcher when you throw it.
Push down the right field line, able to squeeze it in is Greenwell.
And that's a great adjustment there by Kaylin Crumpton, right? So ideally as a hitter, if you're going to be on time for outside, that means you're going to be on time for changeup and vice versa. Saw the changeup, made her adjustments, chose a great pitch, just didn't go her way.
So after a leadoff single from James, she's seen 2 teammates come up to the plate. Neither can move her. And here's Sarah Queen in the cleanup spot. UCF able to strike early with 3 runs in the top half of the first. Houston still looking for its first run in this weekend series.
And who else would you want up if you are on the Houston side, right? Sarah Queen leading this team in RBIs, and leading this team in a number of other offensive categories. Not able to get on top of that one there, though.
Goes chasing, and after a leadoff single by Ariel James, the next 3 Cougars retired in order. Aaliyah White getting the job done, inherits a 3-run lead, and maintains the advantage into the top half of the second.
People say we're big. Wow. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it.
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle,
a big save,
a clutch hit,
and a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities.
One inning already in the books. UCF able to protect its 3-run advantage. A quick bottom half of the first for Leah White. Here's Aspen Howie, the designated player today. Let me correct myself. Kira Klarkowski out of the 8th spot. A center fielder for the Knights. She'll be followed by Megan Greenwell, and then back to the top of the order to Denali Shopaker. We'll see how Melançon's able to bounce back from that 3-run top of the first that included a pair of home runs. This will be pushed down that over to the right side. It'll carry out to Maya Thomas. And for the second straight inning, the first Knight will be retired.
You're seeing this UCF offense commit to a game plan, right? Looking for the outside corner, regardless of whether they're on the left side or the right side. They're counting on the fact that if Melançon misses just a little bit too much over the white, that's something that they are able to extend through and put over the fence. We've seen it twice now from opposite sides of the plate.
Mentioned there were 2 seniors in the lineup today for the Knights. This is the second senior, Megan Greenwell, in the 9th spot for the Knights today. Greenwell yesterday 1 for 2.
And Greenwell is one of 2 seniors in this lineup, and it's so interesting to kind of see the shift that these programs have gone through, right? Houston now is the one with majority of veterans, where and in years prior, UCF really has been able to pack a punch with some of their veterans on their squad, juniors and seniors. Only 3 upperclassmen in this lineup for the Knights, so it makes a big difference in terms of how we see them respond.
This will get down in front of the left fielder Crumpton. They'll limit Greenwell to a single now. We'll point out the flyout by Klarkowski was the first actual batted ball that led to a recorded out after Melançon had struck out the side in the first, technically.
And we see there that that is exactly what Greenwell's supposed to do with that ball. Unfortunately for the UH defense, I mean, we talk so much as infielders and outfielders working together and what the triangles look like on the field, and being able to communicate who is going to be laying out for that ball and who's going to have backup. Really would have liked to see Crumpton lay out for that ball and try to get the out, especially since there's no threat of a runner.
Instead, now there's a runner on first with 1 away. Shopaker, who struck out back in the first inning. Throw down to second, will not be in time. It sneaks into center field.
And if Brooke Vinoy is able to get that ball a little bit lower but release it with the same velocity, she might have a great chance at getting Greenwell out. But Greenwell has recorded this would be her 49th career stolen base.
Yeah.
She is 7th all-time in program history. She just surpassed Stephanie Best last week.
She's 12 of 14 this year in swiping the bases out there, as easily leads this team. That's your number 9 hitter who's brought in to turn the lineup over. Meanwhile, Melançon quietly has her 4th strikeout of the day. And for the second time, Shopaker goes down. So 2 outs, runner on second is Greenwell. Here's Aubrey Johnson, who homered last inning. 2 more teammates would subsequently come home to score before the end of the first.
And what's great is that Greenwell and Schopaker have been able to swap in that 9 and 1 spot, and it's important for them to get on base to set the table for the rest of the lineup. Johnson, Roten, Brewer, Jensen, every single one of those players is going to be able to come in and have the power and average. We talked a little bit about hitting gap to gap and how important that is for hitters, and that's going to be what UCF does well in order to bring players around in scoring position.
Next offering to Johnson in there for a strike.
2-1.
So 2 balls, 1 strike now the count. Again, Johnson with the solo blast with 1 away back in the first inning. Just trying to keep things going here in the second with a runner in scoring position. Now count leaving up 2-2.
And that was the screwball that we've seen from Melanson previously in the season that she was not able to nail today. See how sharply that comes in right at the knees. She threw that well. That was a true screwball as opposed to one that has an upward tail. Majority of Melanson's pitches have that tail, which can be dangerous if she's trying to throw a ball that is either at the knees or mid-thigh.
2-2 pulled foul. Again, the runner on second, Megan Greenwell. She singled with 1 out. Stole second. Schopaker would then strike out. And Johnson will send another souvenir back. Lincoln Rose, Sydney Gearbracht with you here on the American Digital Network. Glad to have you with us in Houston. UCF and the Cougars both high expectations this year. Houston preseason second behind Tulsa. But again, UCF swept the preseason favorite Golden Hurricane. This one will ricochet off the glove of Queen. That will cost the Cougars a run as Greenwell able to score from second.
Tell me when I can clean the lens.
And a well-placed ball, not necessarily well hit, but sharply enough and close enough to the 5-6 hole to catch Sarah Queen off balance. Tough to do, especially on the left side of the Cougar defense, especially the Cougar infield. And then, of course, Greenwell using her speed. We know any ball that's going to be hit in the gap, even in the infield, is going to be an opportunity for her to come around.
So that's a couple of RBI already for Johnson after the home run. The single gets the job done, bringing home Greenwell. And they'll try to keep this 2-out rally going here with Roten. She walked last inning and would come home to score the game's second run. And just gets underneath this one. Coming in, Crumpton and left will hold off for the shortstop, Garcia. But the Knights post insurance. A 4-0 lead here in H-Town. Cougars back up in the home half when we return.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle,
a big save,
a clutch hit,
and a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
The American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Well, again, yesterday a 3-0 affair that UCF was able to pull out against the Cougars. It was Aaliyah White who made it all possible, but today Aaliyah White's been getting plenty of support early on. Just now her second time to step inside the circle. As for the Cougars due up, it's the 5, 6, and 7 hitters, Howie, Montgomery, and Thomas.
And we've seen a shift in the style of play from UCF, right? So this is a team that is given a directive from Louise Gillespie, and she says go, and they say what is it that you need, coach? Because we are willing to do anything it is to win, and we're seeing that shift here today as the Cougars have had a hard time all season long making those immediate adjustments, whether it be in their at-bats or within a game, often waiting until the final hour to score runs at all.
Aspen Howie's your DP, the one freshman in the lineup today for the Cougars. Batting .283 in this, her first collegiate campaign. Now her 12th career start. She'll try to get things started. Again, Montgomery on deck, Thomas in the hole, each coming to the plate for the first time today against Aaliyah White. Howie yesterday officially 0 for 1 with a strikeout against White. We would see Tiara Williams later on come in her place. Trying to push this one to the left side. And that is back-to-back innings. The Cougars get their leadoff batter on.
Well, it looks like the Cougars are making adjustments, and they're choosing the right pitches, right? So yesterday they were off the plate a little bit, but it looked like they were swinging outside, and then at one point they were choosing inside pitches, and that wasn't working for them either. So it's great to see that they are making adjustments earlier in this game as well. Again, it's going to be the entire team or the entire lineup committing to whatever that game plan is offensively.
Kelly Montgomery, the sophomore, hitting .217 this year, gets her 6th start today. White would retire the next 3 batters last inning after allowing a leadoff single. Ariel James last inning was stuck on first when that final out came around. Nobody able to advance her. Let's see if they can move Howie.
And Howie and Montgomery have not been mainstays for the Cougars in their lineup, right? So Montgomery playing first today for the Cougars, and they've seen a little bit of zhuzhing at that first base position. Rachel Hill also playing there, Savannah Huebner, Tiara Williams. They've all gotten time either in the DH or the first base role. So we're seeing that Kristen Vesley and this coaching staff is not afraid to make changes according to who is best at the time and also who's most well matched for the pitcher that they know they're going to face, in this case, Aaliyah White.
In White so far has thrown every pitch for UCF since conference play has begun. And caught looking as Montgomery. She was 0 for 3 yesterday. Only 3 Cougars managed a base hit against White yesterday. And that one right there on the edge.
You're not seeing a lot of late break there from Aaliyah White on her curveball, right? She's able to place it really well on the outside corner. That's what makes the biggest difference. And then she also has a great changeup that she's able to throw.
This one playable. Thomas just unable to beat the throw. Howie will move to second, but now there are 2 outs after Roten never hesitated, able to scoop it up and fire it across the diamond.
And not often that we see Maya Thomas lay a bunt down and her get out. I mean, there's not very many defenses in the country that have been able to get her out on her first at-bat. You just have to tip your hat there. And this is coming from a team that loves to run themselves. UCF loves to use the dirt. They're one of the teams that you know, especially if they're playing home in Orlando, that they're going to be using their dirt, and they use it flawlessly. And they're doing a great job of capitalizing on the Cougars' home turf right now.
Gives way to Brooke Vinoy. Brooke struggled at the plate this year, batting just .147. So valuable behind home plate over the past couple of years, working with a handful of pitchers.
And we saw just last inning how important she was, right? Knows the moments that she needs to go out and have that talk with her pitcher to get them back in the right place mentally and sometimes emotionally, depending on how the game's going.
And this one will be foul off Vinoy's bat to keep the count right where it is. If Vinoy can keep the inning going, Mariah Garcia out of the 9th spot, the last batter in this lineup to face Aaliyah White. When White looks at all of her options on the wrist guard, how many of them just say strike her out?
I imagine in her own mind it says that often.
Well, off speed, that ball climbs too high. Second straight inning, Cougars get their leadoff batter on. Howie, you see there, is in scoring position after the sacrifice bunt from Thomas. but 2 outs. Again, Aaliyah White has been among the best in the country this year. 17 victories. Can you imagine they're going to lean heavily on her against the top half of this conference? You've already played Tulsa. Here you are on the road at Houston. And in terms of expectations, that just leaves your in-state rival over there in Tampa.
And talk about creating some momentum for themselves game to game, right? That sweep against Tulsa, well, and a response too, where Tulsa was set preseason to be #1 in the American Athletic Conference. UCF slated to come in 4th. You know that Lourdes Gillespie is going to her team and saying, hey, you need to play with a chip on their shoulder. They don't think that you're going to be as good as you are in past years. And look, they've been blowing through teams all conference long so far.
Aaliyah White blows that one by Benoit, who never takes the bat off her shoulder. A couple of batters caught looking. Sacrifice bunt mixed in as well. And the Cougars, though they had their second base runner, now have left 2 on.
Oh, that ball is hit deep. Left field. Way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially striking Stalls over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Over 600 victories at the helm of UCF, more than 800 in her career as a college softball coach. Renee Lourdes Gillespie, of course, very familiar with this Lone Star State. Coached at Texas Tech, is a Hall of Famer over at West Texas A&M with the Lady Buffs over there in Canyon, Texas, as the standout pitcher. But she has obviously left her mark with this program, both back in Conference USA and now here in the American.
And so important to note, too, head coach and was a pitcher. There is a testament that we have to give Lourdes Gillespie to the fact that she knows what she's looking for in the type of mentality of all of her pitchers. We've seen it in Aaliyah White. We saw it in Mackenzie Audis. We saw it in Shelby Tournier. So she's looking for a specific type of athlete, somebody who wants to compete day in and day out. And she's seen it, and it's made her program grow leaps and bounds.
3 runs in the first, including 2 off the bat of Cassidy Brewer with her home run. Now she's up again here in the third, 1 for 1 today.
And we talked earlier about how integral Cassidy Brewer is going to be to this UCF squad, right? One of the veterans, one of the upperclassmen, a mainstay behind the plate, works with all of the pitchers, actually battling an ankle injury right now. Hit a ball into her ankle before the team left for Houston. So she was hobbling behind the plate a little bit yesterday, but seems to be back in fine form today. Obviously has had no issues with her offensive strategy today.
Brewer pushes this one to left, but it's not going to carry. Kaylin Crumpton is there. There is a new video scoreboard over that left field wall. And I don't know if we've seen enough softball this year to notice whether that keeps a few more balls in play. Hard to miss the scoreboard.
We'll have to tip your hat to Kristen Vesley and how hard her team has worked to raise the funds for this program to get some of the new updates at the stadium. If you have gotten a chance to go see them yourself in Houston, it is quite a sight to be seen.
If you are pumping gas across the street, it's a lot harder these days to look in and watch some softball while you're pumping the unleaded.
But there is a large apartment complex that was built behind the stadium, taking away one of the best views in college softball, taking away the beautiful Houston skyline, very iconic not only for this university, but for city pride.
Caitlin Jensen at the plate right now, walked back in the first. She was left standing. We promise that's not just digitally edited into the broadcast. As this one, see if it stays playable, and it will be squeezed in by the shortstop, Mariah Garcia. And 2 away now here in the third. First time that the Knights have gone in order through the first 2 at-bats.
And again, we see how important it is to have that communication. You see Sarah Queen stop. Mariah Garcia has been calling that ball since they crossed over the foul line, so she gives her teammates space. You've seen a lot of great communication on the left side of the infield this year, since Garcia and Queen have become mainstays over there for the Cougars in the infield.
Bejarano is one of the 4 strikeouts today for Melanson. Jasmine Esparza is on deck if Bejarano is able to keep things going. Oh, peel down, no swing, says our first base umpire, Troy Kuykendall. John Williams behind home plate today. John Scott, our third base umpire, and that's one of the easier calls.
A good attempt there by Brooke Vinoy to sell that half swing. And even as a coach and as a player, you know, I could never get behind the half swing, right? If you're going to swing, you might as well swing out of your shoes just in case you hit it. And even if you hit it, if you're swinging hard, more likely you're going to get lucky and that ball is going to land in the gap somewhere. Just find the hole. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Matters that you're executing.
It's a 4-pitch walk, so Melanson, to go with her 4 strikeouts, has 3 walks so far of UCF Knights. Yeah, if you're able to check your swing, chances are you were never fully committed on that swing. As this one will get down to play for the opening strike in the count to Jasmine Esparza, who did strike out to end that first inning. 3 runs in the first for the Knights, 1 more last inning. Trying to build on a 4-0 advantage with Aaliyah White pitching quite effectively in the circle today for UCF. And pulled foul, now 0-2.
And the biggest adjustment I see for Esparza is that it looks like she is almost slowing her swing down to meet, well, she's ahead of the ball, first of all, and if she adjusts her timing and keeps her swing speed the same and doesn't try to match whatever pitch Melanson's throwing and allows the ball to get a little bit deeper, she's going to be able to all of a sudden put that ball over the center field fence. So really important. Great hitters, they swing at strikes, and they have great timing. Esparza right now has 2 out of the 3.
And Esparza just wanted to fight that one off. Wasn't going to be able to do much with it. Again, Bejarano's your runner on first. At the 2-out walk a moment ago, after a fly out and a foul out, got things started with Melanson in her 3rd inning of work.
Melanson's finally starting to settle into her rhythm. We're still seeing her throw some wild pitches. Again, those rise balls that we're seeing, even though the Knights are swinging at them, those are way out of the zone. There's no way that when Melanson is on her game that she is throwing that ball that far out of the zone. That's not a swing and miss pitch that she is known for characteristically throwing.
The sophomore out of Tomball, Texas, here in the greater Houston area. Houston has already signed 5 players for next year, all of them in the greater Houston area.
A lot of talent in the Houston area, and you're seeing it throughout all sports too. There's really been a push by the University of Houston to keep talent in the city.
So 2 outs, runner on for the Knights, up by 4 here in the 3rd. And this one should get out of play as well. As the number 7 hitter in this lineup, Esparza, batting for the 2nd time already today.
And Esparza completely extended on a lot of these pitches, right? So she's making sure she's trying to hit the ball before it moves, before it gets out of the zone. And she's still a little bit ahead of it, so that by the time she's actually making contact, she's almost completely extended throughout her elbows. She's not going to have any power if she's not able to have a little bit better bat control.
Oh, a nice throw by Vinoy. The tag just is not there in time to get Bejarano. Otherwise, you're out of the inning. And Esparza has a fresh count to lead off in the next frame. Instead, the 2-2. And she just continues to fight off pitches against Tristan. In Houston, now 2-2 in conference play after falling yesterday to UCF. This is after Houston took 2 of the 3 games a year ago against the Knights to take that weekend series. Just a moment ago, Brooke Vinoy firing one down and just could not get the tag there in time. Just a couple of inches off the mark. This one will stay between the poles, but it'll carry out and beyond the scoreboard. 3rd time today the Knights have gone deep. This time Jasmine Esparza will take the trot around the bases. Bejarano will precede her on the way home.
And at least a 10-pitch at bat there for Esparza, and a great battle, right? We talked a little bit about what adjustments she needed to make. Swings a little bit later there, and she's able to put one over the fence. Just a great at bat there, and being able to stick to her game plan and making sure that she's adjusting her timing and making whatever adjustments are necessary pitch to pitch.
Well, it's the first time the Cougars retired the Knights in order for the first 2 outs, but they are still looking for the 3rd out. And we'll have a new Cougar in the circle to introduce you to when we come back here on the American Digital Network.
$7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle,
a big save,
a clutch hit,
and a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
The American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Presley Bell is the 2nd Cougar in the circle, making her 12th appearance on the year. It's a Houston team that has only worked with 3 arms all year long, whether that means starting or in relief. 7 starts this year for Bell, now making her 5th appearance in relief. Again, a 2.32 ERA on the year, opposing hitters hitting .247. Right now she's tasked with nobody on to find the 3rd out.
And we said during pregame, Lincoln, that it was going to be so important for the Cougars pitching staff that Melanson and Bell had great outings, right? They were never going to rely on Huebner to pitch all 21 innings of this series. So the other 2 Cougars on this pitching staff needed to step up. Melanson didn't have her best outing, right? We're seeing a 6-run deficit so far in her 2 2/3 innings of work. Hopefully Bell is able to put a cork in the offensive momentum of UCF.
Past the diving glove of Garcia, Lindsey Stewart knocks it down and sends it back in. Again, UCF first 2 batters, a fly out, a foul out, but since then a walk, a home run, and now a single for the Knights, all with 2 outs.
And just a great piece of hitting, right? Both Presley Bell and Tristan Melanson have been missing their spots all game long, so UCF doing a great job of capitalizing on their mistakes.
So Klarkowski, the runner on first. Megan Greenwell, who's singled just last inning, stole 2nd and would come home to score on the RBI from Aubrey Johnson.
And I love Greenwell's placement at the bottom of the lineup, right? And so kind of depending on how she and Schabacher are hitting at the time, I know that they're interchangeable, right? So Greenwell right now is at the bottom, but she's really setting the stage and setting the tone almost as a 2nd leadoff in the 9-hole here.
Yeah, when my dad put me in the 9th spot in the lineup, it was for a different reason for why Greenwell is in the lineup here. He insisted otherwise. So again, Greenwell 1 for 1 today, just trying to keep this 2-out rally going. 4th batter to come up with 2 outs for the Knights. Throw down to 2nd, another great throw from Vinoy, but it comes out of the glove on the tag.
Beautiful throw there by Vinoy. Have to hold your teammate accountable there. Ariel James just not able to keep that ball in her glove. Looks like she tries to get a little bit too fancy with the tag or doesn't get her glove out of the way in time, and a great slide.
So again, the inning continues for Greenwell at the plate. Now with a teammate in scoring position. Greenwell.
Lincoln, we spoke earlier how important it was for Houston to be able to limit the Knights' free passes, right? Walks, stolen bases, wild pitches, any and all of the above, even errors on their end defensively. Anything that gives them the advantage, that extra 60 feet has to be limited, especially with a team that can capitalize offensively.
Well, Presley Bell comes on with nobody on the base paths and 2 outs. Jasmine Esparza cleared those base paths, and finally the 3rd out rears its head.
People say we're big. Wow. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. Dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it. This is big.
Well, for a 3rd straight inning, the advantage has grown for Aaliyah White. Any pitcher in the American would appreciate a 6-0 advantage, but Aaliyah White with a sub-2 ERA this year, as good as it has been. She's your 3-time pitcher of the week already in the American. And we're just now saying farewell to the month of March, 2nd weekend of conference play.
So a couple numbers for Aaliyah White, right? So she has surpassed her strikeout count from last year. And she is going to be one of those pitchers that is looking like she's going to make history again if she's able to do well throughout this. Ooh, and she lets in her first hit.
Yeah, that one will drop in front of Greenwell and go ahead and presumably give a double to Mariah Garcia out of the 9th spot. It's the 3rd straight inning. Aaliyah White has conceded a base hit to the leadoff batter. The problem is they're being stranded.
Well, the Cougars are going to need to find a way to keep momentum. They're certainly not having any trouble creating momentum inning to inning. And great to have Ariel James here up for the Cougars, and there's a little bit of momentum. You're seeing a little bit more energy, or you're at least hearing it from the Cougar dugout. That's one of the things about this Cougar team, is that they're uncharacteristically quiet than past teams. Have never had much of an idea of how to create momentum via the noise and energy level that they can bring on the field. It's not something that they leverage well as a dugout. And as a player, regardless of whether you're in the starting 9, 10, or 11, or whatever, you need to understand that your role is to create energy and make it so that if someone was to walk up and spectate, they wouldn't know what team was winning if they couldn't see the scoreboard.
Runner unable to advance on the hit batter, so Garcia still at 2nd, James at 1st. Here's Lindsey Stewart, and I'm not misspeaking when I say last year she was all-conference USA. I know the Cougars are now in the American, but she was at UTSA as a road runner, one of the best players in the league a year ago, but she's come back home to the Houston area, grew up just south of us in Pearland. First team all-conference last year. Patrols center field these days for Houston. 0 for 1 today.
And Lindsey Stewart and Sarah Barker have been interchangeable in that center field role. And towards the beginning of the lineup as well. We've seen some inconsistencies on both ends for them, but it's Stewart, the fact that she is both quick and fast, right? So she has that first 2 or 3 steps quickness that makes her a great outfielder, gets her a great read, and then she's also incredibly fast as a slapper. So once she begins to extend, we also get to see her speed there. So all around a great athlete and an asset for the Cougars on both sides of the field.
This is a foul ball, now even count at 2-2. Houston has already matched their 3 hits in yesterday's 3-0 loss. Obviously, they have a lot more to accomplish here today at home. Right, bottom of the third, still 3 outs to work with. Runner on second is Garcia after her double. Ariel James is at first after being hit by the first pitch she saw. 2-2 from White. On the money. And there's your first out here in the third.
Left fielder, number 25, Kaylin Crumpton.
And although we didn't see it necessarily with her the hit by pitch to Ariel James, we did see the response here from Aaliyah White, which is one of the things you can count on from the sophomore. Pitches like a senior in her sophomore campaign, and she's been able to make history at this Houston Cougar Stadium, right? So there has not been a shutout from UCF in a decade at Cougar Softball Stadium. She was able to do that last night, on her way to do another one here. So a lot of accolades there for Aaliyah White, already maybe not even halfway through her sophomore season.
Kaylin Crumpton lined out to right, 0 for 1 today. We've already seen 1 hit batter this inning, James. It's the 30th Cougar to be hit by a pitch this year. That leads the American, and no single batter's been hit more than Crumpton 13 times this year. The native of Corona, California, now in her senior campaign.
And Crumpton so often getting hit, chasing the record that was set by Kendra Cullum, who was chasing the record that was set by Mariah Gerhart, also a San Diego native, or California native, who we actually played in the 2011 season in the Super Regional against Houston and Oklahoma State. So a lot of connections there with ball magnets for this program. It's almost as if Mariah Gerhart from Oklahoma State passed that along to the Houston program, because Kendra Cullum came in the next year and was a ball magnet, and now Kaylin Crumpton does the same thing.
I feel like I need a corkboard and some yarn to make all those connections. Just understand I'm sitting next to a California native who managed to play her college ball here in Houston. Knights working with a 6-0 advantage with 2 on. And that's going to be your second out. Now runners on third and second for the Cougars. For the bat of Sarah Queen, your cleanup hitter.
And that results in an out, but that's actually a great choice there from Kaylin Crumpton, right? She hits behind her runners. She chooses a great pitch. And she's clearly on time. She's just a little bit too far extended. But overall, good things from that at bat. Not perfect, but good things. Now we have 2 runners in scoring position.
So Queen, who struck out back in the first to end that inning, trying to avoid being the third out here, facing Aaliyah White, who still has not allowed a run this weekend, only allowed 2 earned runs to Tulsa through 3 complete games last weekend. Runner on third, Garcia. Runner on second, James. A double and a hit batter so far, followed by a strikeout and a ground out. And Aaliyah White, no sweat here in humid Houston, will take her time.
And one of the things I love about Aaliyah White is her rhythm. Majority of the time, she gets the ball, she backs up, she gets ready for the next pitch. So you know that does one incredible things for her defense. Not only that they can expect her to keep the pace of the game going, but so that they can be on their toes and there's no falling asleep, right? It limits the time there can be for mental mistakes.
And Queen will watch that one sneak in. And count goes full.
Another great off-speed pitch there from White. That's a pitch that she was not able to hone in quite as effectively last year, and has been a major factor in her success as a sophomore.
Chance for White to get out of the inning. Two Cougars in scoring position. Queen underneath this one. Coming in from center, able to squeeze it in, Klarkowski. Well, the Cougars are taking baby steps. They get 2 on that time, but they'll strand both. 4 runners left on base today for the home team. They trail by 6 after 3 complete.
Oh, that ball is hit deep. Left field. Way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially Schreitenthal's over to first. In time. Double play, and that ends the game.
Downtown Houston still off in the distance here at Cougar Softball Stadium. Take a look at some of the championships that we will feature right here on the American Digital Network, including the final day of the Women's Golf Championship on Tuesday, April 17th. Men's and women's tennis up in Dallas for a couple of days. Men's golf will be on April 24th in the month of May to close out things, including here in softball, outdoor track and field, and then off to Florida for the baseball championship to wrap up the 2017-2018 athletic calendar. Lincoln Rose, Sydney Gearbracht with you here on the American Digital Network. And UCF has managed to score in each of the first 3 innings today. There may be a chance that they don't have an opportunity to score in all 7 innings today.
Well, if they continue, if Aaliyah White continues on the path that she is, I mean, she is doing a great job of responding to anything the Cougars throw at her offensively. And the Knights are playing great defense, which is one of the keys to the game for them to make sure that they take this series and perhaps even the sweep from Houston by the way that it looks like so far. Presley Bell back on the mound for Houston, and it's going to be important for her to have a great day on the mound as well for Houston's success. Now, what makes her successful as opposed to Melanson is that she actually has 3 speeds, right? Has an off-speed curve, has her regular changeup there. We saw the off-speed curve that got her the strikeout.
I was going to say nobody was going to actually be happier than Shopaker that Melanson had been lifted last inning because she had struck out twice against her. That's now 2 Cougar pitchers. 3 strikeouts on the day for the leadoff bat for UCF. Typically that does not bode well for a team, but today's a different story for the Knights. Here's Aubrey Johnson, who has driven home a run each plate appearance. The homer in the first, RBI single in the second. 2 for 2 on the day. UCF a very efficient, 6 runs on 6 hits. And you sprinkle in a few walks as well. Johnson was 1 for 4 with an RBI yesterday. And that would have been enough to hold up for the victory. UCF would shut out Houston. 3 runs on 7 hits yesterday. Houston just 3 base hits, unable to score. Savannah Huebner did get the start, and obviously that was a marquee matchup in this league between 2 of the top pitchers. But Aaliyah White has really emerged this year.
And a tale of 2 aces yesterday. Seeing Savannah Huebner and Aaliyah White both hold off opposing offenses until the final hour in that 7th inning. Obviously, UCF today came with a game plan and committed to it. Still seeing Houston put their toe in the water rather than jumping in. So we're seeing a major difference, obviously, in the outcome so far.
3-1 to Johnson. Queen will step in front of it. That's 2 away. Back-to-back innings that the Cougars have retired the first 2 batters for UCF.
Third baseman number 44, Courtney Roten.
And as Sydney mentioned, all 3 of the Knights' runs yesterday came in the top half of the 7th. And all of a sudden, Houston was down to its final 3 outs with its only chance to respond. This is Courtney Roten, who walked and scored back in the 1st on the home run of Cassidy Brewer.
One of 3 veterans in this lineup. She was really integral to the wins against Tulsa. So talk about a player that is, first of all, a third baseman, right? So she's coming in, she knows how to play against a lot of these Houston veterans, and then also comes in offensively regularly, having seen a lot of the best pitchers in the conference and in the country. Savannah Hebner coming in yesterday, and you know, Roten has just done a great job seeing some of this top talent in the country and being able to deliver.
Bell ahead in the count. Or pardon me, pulls even in the count here. It was Roten who is ahead, 2-1. Brewer on deck, Caitlin Jensen in the hole. Cougars have yet to work a perfect inning. They've never faced fewer than 5 batters in a frame. This is the first full inning of work for Presley Bell. Already 2 strikeouts and a ground out since coming in. These 2 teams will play again tomorrow. Almost looked like they were going to have a doubleheader today after some electricity issues here at Houston yesterday around the ballpark.
Houston had a major storm on Thursday night, and lightning struck one of the electrical boxes, and
yeah, I'm sure there's a metaphor in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's got to be. But they were able to get the backup generator here yesterday, and the show must go on.
Payoff to Roten. This ball out towards left, just doesn't have enough. Crumpton underneath it, and it is a 3-up, 3-down inning with Presley Bell in her first full inning of work. Houston holds the night scoreless in the top of the 4th, looking for their first runs when we return.
People say we're big. Wow. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. Dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it. This is big.
Power comes in all forms.
Power is a big tackle,
A big save.
A clutch hit.
And a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
Student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments.
Profanities or other improper actions.
While at the game.
Be American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Let it go for your Cougs, designated player number 4.
Knights with a 6-0 advantage heading into the home half of the 4th. Look at some of the staff for the women out of Orlando. Tiffany Jordan, Trina Prater. It's a series that was just in favor of UCF coming into this year. 19 wins to 18 losses for the Knights against Houston, although they had been 4 wins, 9 losses here in H-Town. But picked up the victory yesterday. Now a 2-game advantage in the overall series, but obviously they want to win this series just for the conference standings and stay in the hunt right there for the top spot along with USF. Cougars continue to hit in terms of getting their leadoff batter on. Continuing the trend is Aspen Howie. She did the same thing back in the 2nd inning.
First baseman number 12.
And here's the thing, Aspen Howie, she knows what she's looking for. She's not necessarily hitting it super well, right? She's gotten jammed twice. She's just been able to commit to whatever pitch that she's choosing and being able to push it through the 5-6 hole their first at bat, like Lincoln you mentioned, and then she's able to pop it over the left side for her 2nd hit of today.
All 4 hits today for the Cougars have come from the leadoff batter in each of our 4 innings. Now, last inning, again, the first 2 batters reached, a double and a hit batter, only for the next 3 to be retired. Here's Kelly Montgomery, struck out looking back in the second, her only other plate appearance today. And we would not be surprised again to see Aaliyah White in the starting lineup tomorrow. They have placed a great deal of emphasis last week against Tulsa and clearly against Houston today. And they are going to lean on her.
Well, she's shouldered 75% of the innings, right? You're just not seeing very many of the other Knights in the circle other than Aaliyah White because she is so dominant. And they're able to get wins that way. And, you know, there's more advantages by having her in, especially because games go by faster. Her team plays well behind her. There are so many reasons other than the fact that she's put in against top talent to put Aaliyah White in the circle.
If you are worried when you're on the road about your favorite restaurant closing a little early, you put in Aaliyah White, and you might still have a chance to make that reservation.
And that was one of the changeups that we saw a lot last year, right? So not as precise, a little bit of a, looks like it hits a little bit of a bubble and then rolls back down into the strike zone. Obviously not going to get that call, but something that we've seen, yeah, so she, one of the tricks when you're throwing that flip change is making sure that your hand stays almost underneath a table. That's one of the visuals a lot of pitching coaches give their players, but making sure that you keep that hand nice and low, because sometimes when you have a tendency to bring that hand up, the ball comes up with it and adjusts your release point.
It's the second straight inning that a hit has been followed up by a free pass, and I'll tell you right now, it's the second straight inning that Aaliyah White is not going to be yanked out of this ball game. All the teammates come out there. Can't imagine Aaliyah White needed much to get her back on track. It's the bottom third of the order due up now for the Cougars. They stranded 2 last inning, 4 now in this ball game.
And talk about a young team, but also a team with great chemistry, right? Being able to come through as an infield.
And the second sacrifice bunt today by Maya Thomas, and that may be a straight-up base hit for her. I'm not sure if there was going to be any chance of even getting Thomas out had that been the priority for White.
And Thomas lays down a beautiful bunt, making an adjustment from the last bunt she laid down. Roten was able to grab it last time, right? So we know that she's going to be the one that has been directed to crash in the hardest. And Maya Thomas does a great job of having her bat angle in the right spot, putting it down the first base line. And now the bases are loaded, Lincoln, like you said.
It is a single for Thomas. Bases loaded. You saw Kristen Vesley came out. We'll see if she is going to pull one of her runners or bring up a different bat for Brooke Vinoy.
Bench pitch hitting for number 20, Brooke Vinoy. Number 6, Tiara Williams.
As Kelly Montgomery will not run, she's standing on second.
Bench now running at second base, number 23, Deja Scott.
We are also going to see a pinch hitter, by the way. Howie is still your runner on third. It's the runner on second, Montgomery, that they'll run for. Thomas over at first. And Tiara Williams is going to bat here. You see the pinch runner, Deja Scott, also from the Houston area, the singer. Pardon me, the singer. Sure. The senior.
And Tiara Williams was one of 3 players, like we said yesterday, that was able to capitalize on her one at bat against Aaliyah White, right? Knew exactly what she was coming in to choose, able to rope a double to the right center wall.
So, of course, in softball, Brooke Vinoy will be able to re-enter as catcher where she's so valuable. But she doesn't mind if she gets to take a breather for a little while. Williams out towards right. And this should score 1. And also advancing will be Scott. So Aspen Howie becomes the first Cougar to score this week. Montgomery has Scott run on her behalf. Scott moves on to third, and you have runners on the corners now with one away after the sacrifice fly on the pinch at bat by Williams.
And just a great piece of hitting there by Tara Williams, right? Again, we talked about how important it was for Kaylin Crumpton the inning prior to be hitting behind her runner, even though she doesn't capitalize quite the same way Williams does. Quick little sac fly from Williams brings a run in, and finally we're able to see a little bit of a relief on Houston's face, their collective face, I guess, finally putting a run on the board.
Again, Mariah Garcia out of the 9 spot. She doubled her only at bat today, back in the third, but was left stranded last inning in scoring position at third. Looking to drive home some more teammates and make this interesting here. Already Aspen Howie has scored this inning after leading off with a single. Scott on third, Thomas on first. Mariah Garcia, a fellow graduate of Austin High over in Austin, Texas. I say fellow. I too, a former Austin High Maroon. That is the oldest public high school west of the Mississippi. 1881, produced names like Don Baylor, Ben Crenshaw, a couple of governors, and some softball announcer.
Seeing Aaliyah White lose a little bit of steam here, lost some precision to her pitches, doesn't quite have the same body language that we've seen not only yesterday's game, but in the first 3.5 innings of this game. Big difference in just the way that she's carrying herself, and that's something that Houston's able to pick up on pretty quickly. So that's going to be something that Aaliyah White's teammates are going to need to say to her, hey, need to make you aware of this, need to make sure that you're adjusting pitch to pitch and responding and getting out of that reactionary mode that's easy to get into as a sophomore.
Esparza gladly squeezes in that second out while straddling the foul line. 2 away.
And again, a great response there from Aaliyah White. Getting her pitches back to being precise, putting it where Mariah Garcia was not able to hit it well, and Ariel James up for a 3rd time for the Cougars.
She's yet to be retired, a single, and has been hit by pitch. She came up last inning. Cougars brought up 5 to the plate last inning. Now already 6 to the plate here in the 4th. They have scored 1 run now. James looking to make it more.
So if you're in the booth with us, you're seeing me throw my hands up at some of the pitches that both offenses are swinging that at this particular pitch. Not understanding why Ariel James is not choosing the ball on the outside corner that's nice and low and in her zone, and instead choosing the high and inside, which not very many players hit well.
We'll mention runners are on the corners right now. Scott, the runner, on third. Maya Thomas is still on first. The 0-2. Aaliyah White came into the inning with a 6-run cushion. And for a second time today, Ariel James has been hit by pitch. You heard it at home. Thomas now in scoring position. Bases are loaded. And that's a league-leading 31st hit batter for the Cougars. So here is your first team all-conference former Roadrunner at UTSA, now Cougar here at Houston. 0 for 2 though today, Lindsey Stewart out of the 2 spot. No place to put her. Something has to give here.
And not a bad spot to be in here for Houston, right? You have 3 speedy Cougars on the base paths, and you have an incredibly fast Cougar up to bat right now. So an opportunity for multiple runs, even on a base hit that looks like a single. Doesn't have to be anything flashy.
Any way that she can reach base safely is going to bring home at least 1 run. She's the 7th batter to come up this inning against Aaliyah White. And as impressive as White has been, again, she has not faced the minimum today because she has conceded a base hit to every leadoff batter through the first 4 innings. This has a chance. That chance quickly squashed. Larkowski read it well, got under it in plenty of time. 7 Cougars come to the plate, but it's the first one, Aspen Howie, who leads off with a single, who becomes the first Cougar to touch home. It's a 6-1 ball game. Moving on to the top of the 5th, Knights return to the plate.
Student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Well, the Cougars able to post a run there in the 4th, but still an uphill battle here at home if they are going to have a chance at taking the weekend series, combined with a needed win tomorrow. Lincoln Rose, Sidney Gearbracht with you. Some face time for our home plate umpire, John Williams. He was a lot more active early on, ringing up batters on both sides. Since then, more softballs put into play. As for UCF now, 3rd time through the lineup, it's Cassidy Brewer. A 2-run home run in the 1st, flied out to left in the 3rd. 1 for 2 today. This is your cleanup spot in the lineup. It's her first time to see Presley Bell in the circle. Bell gave up a single to the first batter she faced. Since then, a couple of strikeouts, a ground out, and a fly out. As Bell has helped settle things down.
So Bell is going to throw a lot lower in the zone, really going to focus on the lower half, while Melanson's going to be working the upper half and then the corners, right? So both pitchers are going to have effective horizontal moving pitches. Then their vertical pitches are going to differ. And then, again, Bell has this 3rd speed where she's able to throw an off-speed curve, and we've seen her get a couple strikeouts as a result.
2-1 now the count, as the first strike now to the name of Brewer.
Now what I love about both of these teams is that their strength of schedule thus far this year has been outstanding on both sides, right? The American Athletic Conference is the 4th rated conference according to RPI, right? Which is big when you keep hearing all of this Power 5 nonsense. And it truly is nonsense, especially when you're looking at these 2 programs who are coming in with a incredible RPI in terms of schedules. Their strength of schedule is great. And then the conference as a whole being 4th rated in RPI, that's a big deal, especially for college softball.
Yeah, the Cougars last year went 12-6 in conference, would finish 2nd in the league, but would be left out of what would be their 8th NCAA tournament. Their season came to an end just short of the automatic bid, falling to Tulsa 1-0 in that championship game. While UCF pursuing its 7th trip to the NCAA tournament. Its last big dance was back in 2015. You have to like their chances this year based on this start. Again, Brewer still at the plate.
And Brewer having some family history with the Knights. Older sister Danielle Brewer played for UCF.
And she will have a leadoff walk. It's funny how this game has gone. No Knight leadoff batter had reached base today, and yet they have the 6-1 advantage, while every leadoff batter for the Cougars today has been able to reach. And they are going to run for Brewer. As in her place, you see Kendall Langley, the freshman out of Hallettsville, Texas. A bit of a homecoming for her, just about an hour up the road.
Have quite a bit of her family here.
Former. Now, my question is, was she a Lady Brahma or a Brahmarette? In Texas, a couple of programs with the Bulls, and I can't recall which variety of Brahma she was. You're welcome to tweet the answer. As one pitch is all it takes to retire Jensen, and
again, didn't look like Jensen really committed to that.
Designated player number 2, Haley Verano.
Gave kind of a half-hearted swing. Looks like she meant to foul that ball off, but just not ahead of it enough, and then thinks it might have been foul. Tip your hat to Sarah Queen for finishing the play.
This will get down, could be trouble. Nice recovery by Montgomery with James covering the bag. All of a sudden, 2 pitches, moves Langley from first to third.
First baseman number 7, Jasmine Esparza.
And perhaps the best at bat we have seen today belonged to Jasmine Esparza back in the 3rd inning.
Bar none. So at least 10 pitches, probably closer to 13 or 14. Was able to make adjustments throughout her at bat, and it was almost as if I was in her ear, kind of letting her know what her adjustment needed to be, because she fixed her timing and she was able to capitalize on a pitch and send a ball over the left field fence, probably hit the scoreboard, as we were talking about earlier in this game. But she did come into this game hitting 246, right? So about a 1 in 4 type of hitter. So this is good for the Cougars, right? They're going to be looking at her batting average, looking at what she's already done, saying, okay, so the likelihood for her getting another hit here, not great. So we have the advantage here. So it's going to be Esparza. It's going to be her job right here to make sure that she keeps this inning alive for the Knights.
Scoots out of the way of that one. Again, Langley, the runner on third, is running after Cassidy Brewer walked. It just took 2 pitches to get Langley from first to third. A couple of ground outs. And Esparza ahead of that one.
We're seeing a lot of the ground balls throughout this game today, not only from the Knights but also from the Cougars, where hitters are so ahead of the ball that even on some of the outside pitches they're hitting the outside of the outside pitch. So they're so extended, so out in front that they're not even allowing themselves to use any of their power or any of their length, regardless of height, in order to extend through and get a little bit more power, resulting in more bases at the end of the day.
A dead ball after Esparza's hit by this pitch. That shin protector's usually there for batted balls, but that time helped cushion the pitch.
And the technology that they have to protect players nowadays is really cool, right? So that actually comes out of a package, like a gel within the package, and then you mold it to your own body. So any sort of guard is very tailored to the player's shape.
This is the reason for the pause right now, as Kristen Vesley's made her way out to the circle to talk things over. Specifically, some scouting, it appears. For Kira Klarkowski, the 8-hitter due up, 1 for 2 today.
So it's going to be important, too, to remember that there are 4 coaches for the Houston Cougars, and one of them is missing, right? So Megan Gibson Lofton, congratulations to her. She gave birth to a healthy baby girl earlier this year, so she's actually still on maternity leave. She doesn't come back until mid-April. So Brooke Vanoy has done a great job of calling pitches, obviously with the help of Coach Tysarczyk, Coach Vesley, and Coach Schultz, who have made these scouting reports and are letting her know, inning by inning, hey, this is who you have up. This is their strengths. This is what you need to be calling, especially according to their pitcher. So Brooke Fenoy really having to step up here and making sure she's managing a lot of information.
So Klarkowski comes up out of the 8th spot. Runners on the corners, Langley and Esparza respectively. UCF trying to get that run back that they conceded a half inning ago. Megan Greenwell on deck. Remember, Greenwell, one of your better hitters, despite being buried into the 9 spot. See her over the shoulder of Klarkowski, who gets around on this one, 2-1. Well, a much less tense 5th inning as compared to yesterday when it was still 0-0. And every little mistake could cost you. It was scoreless going into the top of the 7th.
See, what's interesting is that I'm looking at Belle's body language, and she also doesn't seem relaxed, right? So at this point, as a pitcher, there's already a significant run deficit. So coming in and pitching as if you are not winning, or as if you are coming into a 0-0 ball game, I'm not necessarily saying that she should be pitching as if she's winning, but the difference is that she actually is pitching as if she's responsible for those runs.
The RBI single here brings home Langley, the pinch runner, as Esparza has to hold up its second, and they do get the run back. As 7-1 now here in the top of the 5th, still with 2 away.
You're seeing a little bit of tightness there again from Belle, and it's going to be important for her and even for Vinoy to go out there and have the conversation. Hey, you know what? You're going to need to make sure that you are coming and you're pitching your game. What happened before doesn't matter. Make sure that you are doing what you can do to limit the amount of runs that are scoring. And we, as an offense, have to make sure that we're doing our job too. It's not all on you, and it's not all on every single pitch you throw for you to hold your breath.
Brooke Barlow is going to pinch hit for Megan Greenwell. After Greenwell was 1 for 2 today with a run scored and a stolen base. Barlow, the junior out of Jacksonville, Florida, started her career over at the College of Central Florida. I promise you that's a different school. But 4 of the 7 runs today for UCF have come with 2 outs. Looking for more here.
Great little off speed there. And what I love about, we've seen some great pinch hit opportunities and at-bats here so far this game. What I love about a pinch hitter is that a pinch hitter actually fails 85% of the time. So their success rate, and when a pinch hitter is successful, having a reliable set of pinch hitters, even if you have more than 1 or 2, those are going to be incredible assets for your team because you know that they can come in and change the game one swing at a time.
Well, Presley Bell able to get that elusive 3rd out, but not before ultimately Cassidy Brewer became the first leadoff batter to reach. Langley would run on her behalf. Then Klarkowski would bring her home. 7-1 UCF.
Oh, that ball is hit deep, left field, way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially striking Stalls over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Well, perhaps some future Cougars and future Knights in attendance here this evening. Great weather, great evening to take in a ball game between two of the better programs in the American, but when you face Aaliyah White, she's going to make some of the best bats in this league stay quiet.
Yes, she is. We saw her do the same thing to the Golden Hurricane last weekend. And again, and earlier this season, she's had some great wins too. She's in the top 20 for most shutouts. Obviously, that's not the case tonight. The Cougars were able to put at least one run up on the board. Have to see in these next 3 innings if they can capitalize and put a couple more up there.
3, 4, and 5 hitters due up for the Cougars, who plated their first run last inning. Kaylin Crumpton looking to make it 5 straight leadoff batters to reach on a base hit. This ball off the glove, it'll be close, and a bang-bang play will keep Crumpton off the base paths, now 0 for 3 today. Nice composure on the right side between Johnson and Esparza.
And Kaylin Crumpton known to really pound the right side of the field, right? She's very good at hitting outside pitches. And it's just, again, Lincoln, you said it. It was just a great play, bang, bang over there in the right side of the infield.
Sarah Queen with 1 out, nobody on. First time she's come to the plate today without a base runner. It's also the first time she's come to the plate with fewer than 2 outs. She was the 3rd out in the 1st and 3rd, looking to get something started here in the 5th. Again, Sarah, a sophomore. She will be seeing plenty more of Aaliyah White in her career. Also, a young arm for the Knights. As Aaliyah, a sophomore out of Land O'Lakes, Florida.
So talk about a couple years left for both pitching staffs on in this game, right? So Aaliyah White, a sophomore. Savannah Hebner and Presley Bell, both juniors. Tristan Melanson didn't have a great outing today. Is pretty uncharacteristic of her to give up as many runs as she did. She's a sophomore, so we're looking at both of these teams going to be coming up, and we're going to have more series with these two teams with these very similar pitching matchups. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years when these two teams get together.
Sarah Queen regretted that swing about midway through.
Yes, she did. Beautiful changeup there. That's the changeup that Aaliyah White has been working on all season long, right? So she has perfected the release point there, allows that ball to fluff out of her hand and fool Sarah Queen. And you know what? As a hitter, you just have to tip your hat to the pitcher of that one. Like, you know what? You got me that time. Nothing I can do about that.
And again, for the first time today, the first 2 Cougar bats go in order. Aaliyah White still looking for her first perfect inning. Here's Aspen Howie, 2 for 2 today with a run scored last inning. If there's been a thorn in the side of Aaliyah White, it is this designated player at the plate right now. Hasn't been too sharp of a thorn.
But a great analogy, right, for how frustrating it is as a pitcher. There's nothing more frustrating to a pitcher than there's a player that you cannot get out easily, right? One that you're going to have to throw a lot of pitches to, that's going to force the ball on the ground in some way, shape, or form. And Aaliyah White got a considerable amount of strikeouts last night. Aspen Howie did not have her best outing in Game 1. She's having a much better outing, choosing better pitches, and having better at-bats in Game 2.
By the way, just a freshman. Aspen getting her 3rd straight start at DP. Also from the Austin area, from Lake Travis High School, where Baker Mayfield used to play a little high school ball, both on the diamond and on the gridiron.
You're seeing Aaliyah White again. She's a little bit tired now, right? She's not getting the same precision. She's not having quite the same approach to throwing that changeup. We're seeing her hold on to it a little bit too long, and she's not being able to get the swing and miss opportunity that we saw so often last night.
And the battle continues as advertised between the sophomore in the circle, the freshman at the plate. And Howie 2 for 2 today off of White. 2 of the 5 hits conceded. Jensen over to Esparza. And as well as Aaliyah White has pitched tonight, that her first 3 up, 3 down inning. UCF in the driver's seat, moving on to the 6th, up by 6 here in Houston.
People say we're big. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. Dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it. This is big.
Welcome back to Cougar Softball Stadium here on the campus of the University of Houston against Game 2 of a 3-game weekend series between the Cougars and the Knights. UCF 3-0 victors yesterday. A rare Thursday conference matchup as Easter, of course, just around the corner, pushing all of the softball and baseball schedules one day earlier this week. In the circle, Presley Bell, first pitch shown to Schoppeker, and after Schoppeker had struck out her first 3 plate appearances, they bat on her behalf with Aaron Emanuel, and Emanuel comes through with a pinch hit.
A well-hit ball and a really long single. Lindsey Stewart able to get to that very quickly as it hits sharply off the wall.
Well, Aubrey Johnson will, at the moment, no longer be in line for the game-winning home run when she made it 1-0 back in the first. They have since answered that run. But she has 2 RBI today. Most recently, though, grounded out back in the 4th. Comes up with Emanuel on, and nobody retired as of yet. Again, Melanson got the start. Presley Bell, one of just 3 pitchers used all year by Houston, only the 2nd pitcher today. As coming in on her horse and waiting for that one to drop in front of her is Stewart. So 2 on with nobody out. Back-to-back singles.
A good piece of hitting there, but not a great effort there from Stewart. Looks like she doesn't get a very good read on actually how hard that ball's hit. And as an outfielder, you see a line drive and you freeze, right? So you don't necessarily make or break either way. But important, once she does see that that ball's actually not carrying as hard as she thinks it is, that she makes a little bit of a better effort, right? So trust yourself as an outfielder, either short hop that ball, call it, do something to freeze your runner. You might have an opportunity at a force out one, or even make the attempt at the sliding play. I wouldn't necessarily dive for that ball because I think a dive's a little bit risky.
They are going to run for Johnson. So Johnson comes out after the single. And in her place, it's going to be Kaylee Masidi, freshman out of Bradenton, Florida. And during all that, Courtney Roten had her head coach locking eyes with her, just smiling right at her. And I don't think Lourdes Gillespie said a single word. It's one of those, we're going to be in silence for a while. Are you going to say anything? They do get the lead runner, best case scenario, 1 pitch to Roten. And she'll reach on the fielder's choice as Emanuel out at 3rd. Yeah, Sarah Queen with the easy decision to make here.
And again, we're seeing that UCF, since seeing Melanson, is way ahead of what Bell is throwing. Definitely thrown off by the fact that she has 3 speeds. Not exactly sure how to nail down their timing. So we've seen a lot of mishits from them, a lot of miscues.
That was an important out, the way this inning was going. Remember, if UCF can take an 8-run lead, Houston would just have the bottom half of the inning to try to produce something to avoid a run rule. You see Miss City on second right now. Roten over on first. And Cassidy Brewer, who returned to the ball game after they ran for her last inning, as both catchers re-entered immediately the next half inning tonight. Cassidy Brewer, a 2-run home run in the first, walked in the 5th. Her pinch runner would come home to score to reestablish a 6-run lead. A lot of smiles for the women from Orlando. They got off to a 3-0 start after the first inning, and it's been a much different ball game than 24 hours ago. At this point, it was still scoreless last night. And the count will hold at 0-2. Bell with the 0-2 offering, this one up the middle. Throw over to first, and a double play ball gets them out of the inning. James touches second to the glove of Montgomery, and that will get Houston out of a bit of a jam as the Knights do not bring home a run. Cougars still within 6.
Oh, that ball is hit deep, left field, way back. That ball is gone. Double play ball potentially striking Stalls over to first. In time, double play, and that ends the game.
Back to Houston as the sun starts to retire on this week. As thrilled to have you with us here on the American Digital Network. Lincoln Rose, Sydney Gearbrack, as UCF jumped out to a quick advantage and has not looked back. Houston managed 1 run back in the 4th inning.
Leading up for the Cougars, first
Just
base
about a
number
full
12,
moon.
Kelly Montgomery.
Little Coolio piped in, which means just one thing for Cougars fans, and it is Kelly Montgomery coming to the plate. She has struck out and walked today. And for the average viewer, we'll just let you type into Google, what is Coolio? Leah White won't even guess how old she was when Michelle Pfeiffer was a substitute teacher. As this one just off the mark. Again, White threw every pitch last weekend against Tulsa, and that continues to be the case this weekend in Houston. She'll let other Knights take care of this one, as Esparza has it.
It looks like White got that ball to move the way that she wanted to, right? The pitch prior, we see her turn her hand over as if she's throwing a drop ball, but it didn't really move a whole lot, but she was able to get the called strike. So it's interesting to see how little movement she's getting on that outside corner. In contrast, on a right-handed hitter, how much movement she's getting from her screwball and her rise, and how effective those have been all game long.
Maya Thomas grew up just west of here at Sugar Land High School. Last year, first team all-conference. A little slap to the left side, and just a nice job by Roten. Had no room for error. Got to the ball quickly to the glove. Across the diamond, that's 2 up, 2 down.
Now, Maya Thomas had an incredible series against UCF last year. She's swinging away a lot more now against teams, and I'm not sure why, because if I had the speed and was on the left side like Maya Thomas, and I could bunt like Maya Thomas.
Yeah, she has 11 bunts for singles this year.
Yes, I would be bunting until I couldn't bunt anymore, until they literally played me so far in that it almost looked like everyone was at their own corner of the field like a pitcher's mound. And then I would finally start to swing the bat. Obviously, if you're not in a, if you're the leadoff batter, it looks a little bit different. Or if there's runners in scoring position, it looks different, but you understand what I'm saying. So that's one of the things that I find frustrating when I do see her swing away or I do see her slap, even though she has those tools in her toolbox. Why bring those out and even show them when you are so effective with tool number 1?
Brooke Vanoy ahead in the count right now with 2 outs against Aaliyah White. Second straight inning that the Cougars have not been able to get their leadoff batter on.
And just a beautiful delivery of a changeup. Not getting that called strike, but even though she's showing it, is enough to make an impact in the mind of an offensive player. Brooke Vanoy there, able to wait that at-bat out and take her base.
We do not expect they will run for Vanoy this time. She would not be able to return. Plus, right now it's a 6-run ball game.
They're doing a good job there of getting White back in the right mentality. Again, we've seen both Brewer and Vanoy go out to their pitchers and have that conversation to get them back where they need to be in that mentality, you know, of I'm here to win and I'm here, we're not playing not to lose here, we're playing to win. And I think that the difference between those two mindsets, especially for a pitcher, can set the tone for the rest of the team. Now, Leah White has done a great job, obviously a competitor, and not a surprise necessarily from the way that we know Coach Lourdes Gillespie recruits and the players she has on her team year in, year out.
They will concede second there to Vanoy. Again, they'll just be focused on trying to get the third out. As Vanoy adds a little dirt to her collection.
And talk about another player that loves to play to win. Brooke Vanoy plays with a ton of emotion, and that can work for her and against her. She's one of those players that is going to take the extra base if she can help it.
Garcia right now at the plate, doubled in the third, fouled out in the fourth. 1 for 2 today. High chopper coming in, Jensen able to collect it in time for the third out as Vanoy will be left stranded. So the Cougars will grab their gloves, head back to the diamond, but they'll be down to their final 3 outs after they get past the Knights, perhaps one final half frame. UCF looking to improve to 5-0 in the American.
People say we're big. Well, what is big?
This is big.
It's an energy. An opportunity. So go on. Dream big. Because big is just the beginning.
I got it. This is big.
Some of the fans cheering on the black and gold. Of course, tonight they've been cheering on White, Aaliyah White, in the circle for a second straight evening, looking to add to her nation-leading 17 wins with an 18th here this evening. Back on the campus of the University of Houston, growing facilities, I know, for all these programs. Softball continuing to improve this venue and its amenities for their players. As overall, a nice job by Presley Brell, since coming in, has just allowed 1 run and a little over 3 innings of work. Caitlin Jensen leading off out of the 5 spot here in the 7th. If it's up to the Knights, this will be the final time they come to the plate. They'd like to add as much insurance as possible. That's a foul ball. Jensen, followed by Bejarano and Esparza, the minimum 3 due up. It's a trio that has managed 1 base hit so far, and that was Esperanza's 2-run blast. Jensen 0 for 2 with a walk. As James will squeeze that in for out number 1, and the Cougars 1 out closer to picking up their bats for the bottom half of the 7th inning.
Designated player number 2, Amy Bejarano.
As Haley Bejarano now, a strikeout, a walk, and a ground out. And did not get the better of that exchange. That's a foul ball, hit her in the batter's box.
Number 1, that's what those guards are for. And number 2, it looks like that ball was hit off of her ankle into the glove of Kayla Kincaid, who is now... Ooh, that's just what happens when you get on the inside of a ball. Can hit it right at the perfect angle, get it right into that guard. Done that a number of times.
And chop back to the pitcher. And that is a fair ball. And that's 2 batters retired. You mentioned Kincaid out of Missouri City, Texas. That's basically the Houston area. Off to the west, the freshman for the Cougars. And here is Jasmine Esperanza. Esperanza hit by pitch in the 5th. Tattooed a ball in the 3rd. After a great at-bat, was the last batter that the starter Malasan saw. Usually it's mosquitoes biting, but tonight it's batted balls right around the ankles.
And again, that's going to be from players getting on the outside of an inside pitch, right? So we talk so often as offensive players that we need to make sure our hands are inside the ball, and that's to make sure that we are able to control our barrel. So by the time our barrel slices the ball in half, ideally, it's making sure that we are hitting the ball as square as possible.
We'll mention USF picked up a win earlier today against Memphis to continue their winning ways. Puts a little pressure on UCF. That was a 4-0 final for the Bulls today.
And I would love to see, I know Presley Bell really only throws that off speed on the outside corner. Would really love to see what she can do with a changeup on the inside corner. Because right now, UCF is so ahead of the majority of her pitches that I think that she would be able to capitalize on a ball in the inside corner, because what else are they going to do with it? They're either going to be so ahead of it that that there's nothing, they're either going to foul it off even more, she's going to get another chance for a strike, or she's going to be able to get a swing and miss. Not something I've seen either pitcher attempt tonight.
with slight exaggeration, half the pitches thrown tonight by the two Cougars pitchers have been to Jasmine Esparza. As this one fouled back. Of course, esperar in Spanish means wait, and that's exactly what she is forcing the pitcher to do. The 2-2. Again, UCF trying to match the 5-0 start of USF.
Seeing the Florida teams go head-to-head here so far.
And ultimately, Presley Bell will win that battle. A soft liner to the glove of Garcia. That is a 3-up, 3-down inning for the Cougars. But now they're down to their final 3 outs. They need at least 6.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle,
a big save,
a clutch hit,
and a game-winning shot.
Power is also standing up for what is right.
Power is respecting an opponent, officials,
student athletes, coaches, and team representatives.
Power is not tolerating racial or ethnic comments,
profanities, or other improper actions
while at the game.
The American.
Power.
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 Power for life.
Well, UCF has a chance to lock up their second straight weekend of American softball in terms of claiming a series here in just game 2 after they only took 1 game all of last year against the Cougars. Lincoln Rose, Sydney Gear back with you. And we're at the top of the order for Houston. Ariel James, a single and twice has been hit by pitch. This time returns the favor. Puts a charge in that one. And the Cougars still have 3 outs to complete a comeback.
There it is from Ariel James. Knowing what she's looking for all game long. Of course, had two times the bat was taken out of her hand by Aaliyah White, getting hit. But she's able to capitalize on a hard inside ball, gets her bat there. Again, gets her hands inside the ball. She's able to rope it over the left field fence. Got to tip your hat there to Ariel James. She has been a mainstay at that leadoff spot for the Cougars. Generates a lot of momentum for them offensively.
Last year's Rookie of the Year and first team all-conference in the American. As I remember last year, Coach told us the most enthusiasm you'll get from James is a little fist pump. She just made her way around the bases. She's always a tough out, and tonight she has not been retired. She would ideally be in the 3 spot in the lineup, but past couple of years has been in that top spot. Here's Lindsey Stewart, 0 for 3 today. And pardon me, no. In her place, Savannah, no. This is Sharice Wyatt, another Austin, Texas native freshman.
Not much you can say about that one. Aaliyah White coming in with some great changeups. It's so important as a pinch hitter that you go in taking your hacks, right? So sometimes, you know, and there are 2 schools of thought. One, you don't have time to be patient. You have to capitalize on the first couple pitches that you get, making sure that you're as effective as you can be early in the count. That's when you're going to see the best pitches. Or settle into your at bat. You know what you're looking for, and only adjust when you're not getting what it is that you're looking for. So I really need to see her take her bat off of her shoulder there.
And all of a sudden, the next two batters quickly retired. Crumpton will likely finish the night 0 for 4 with that ground down.
Third baseman number 11, Kayla Kincaid.
So Cougars are down to their final out. Kincaid is the batter, after Sarah Queen in the cleanup spot had gone 0 for 3. Aaliyah White has allowed 6 hits tonight, twice as many as last night. 2 runs, both earned, walked a pair, struck out 6. Also hit a couple of batters. She's 1 out away from picking up her 18th victory already this year. Again, Kincaid, one of the handful of freshmen now seeing time in tonight's ball game.
And Houston really relying on their depth of bench here, right? And a lot of their pinch hitters have come in and done really well. That's how they've earned a lot of their starts. Aspen Howie, Kelly Montgomery. So unfortunately, there it is.
Snagged by Roten, and with that, the Knights are 5-0 to start the American here in 2018. Renee Lures-Gillespie has her squad right there at the top of the American standings, along with in-state rival UCF. Tomorrow they'll look to complete the sweep against these Cougars. A rivalry over the years that has been neck and neck. And they are coming to town, presumably with Aaliyah White looking to pitch once again all 3 days. Well, the Knights struck early, 3 runs in the first, including a pair of home runs from Johnson and Brewer, as they would open it up early on. Final score 7-2. Big thanks to our entire ADN crew in Houston. For Sydney Gearbrandt, I'm Lincoln Rose. Hope you have a wonderful wrap up to the rest of your Easter weekend. Cougars will look to try to bounce back tomorrow. Otherwise, it'll be the Knights improving to 6-0 here in conference play.